Now, this is Damon Fordham, adjunct professor of history at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, some of you might remember that little lick I did just now as from Bob Marley's song, One Drop from the Survival album. And the lyric that little lick was based on went, "Give us the teachings of His Majesty, for we no want no devil philosophy," from that song. Now, His Majesty in that particular case refers to Emperor Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia, who was granted that title when he received his coronation in Ethiopia in the early 1930s. And that is the phrase in his Ethiopian language is power of the Holy Trinity. And his given name was Tafari, and the Ethiopian title for king was Ras. And so since he was the king, that's where you get the phrase Rastafari, which leads to the Rastafarian movement that started in Jamaica. They were the followers of the teachings of Haile Selassie. And one of the reasons why people would follow Emperor Haile Selassie was the following story will suffice. Back in 1896, they had the Battle of Adawa down in Ethiopia. And that was when Emperor Menelik II led the Ethiopian army to defeat the Italian forces at Adawa. And that was an earth-shattering thing because, you see, this was one of the first known cases of an African army defeating a European one. And this made Ethiopia basically a source of great inspiration for people of African descent and others around the world. And of course, this led to the humiliation of Italy. Well, by 1936, Italy was ruled by a dictator by the name of Benito Mussolini. And he wanted to regain the prestige of Italy to what it was during the Roman Empire. So he called himself Il Duce and had statues of himself all over the place. And one of the things he did to try to regain Italy's prestige was to get revenge for the defeat at Adawa by invading Ethiopia. Well, Haile Selassie did not take this lying down. He first went to the League of Nations, which was the forerunner to the United Nations, and he told the nations of Europe and the rest of the world of how they were suffering in Ethiopia under Mussolini's invasion. And many people dismissed and ignored him at the League of Nations, and so he made this bold prediction. He said, "God and history will remember your judgment. It is us today. It'll be you tomorrow." And guess what? Within several years, Hitler and Mussolini had conquered much of Europe, leading, of course, us into World War II. And so Haile Selassie's prediction proved to be correct. And so with the help of some of the other nations, so forth, Mr. Emperor Selassie managed to get back to Ethiopia and managed to rally the troops. And guess what? They routed out Mussolini and the Italian invaders and pretty much restored the freedom of Ethiopia. Now, that, of course, the fact that he predicted that the nations that scorned him at the League of Nations would eventually feel the wrath of people like Hitler and Mussolini and all, shows that he had a pretty good eye for prophecy on a number of things. And, well, as saying a lot of things of wisdom in leading his country. So as a result of this, you could see why he was greatly admired by people. And that's one of the reasons why Bob Marley in that song said, "Give us the teachings of His Majesty, for we no want no devil philosophy." This is Damon Fordham.